At KSMO Radio, it's time for us to spotlight our Dent County Extension. Eric Meusch has made his way in this morning. It's good to see you, Eric. We haven't seen you in a while, my friend.
Good morning. It has been a while. Time flies.
It's good to have you here, and of course, we always appreciate our friends from the Extension taking some time to come down and keep us up to date on different things going on. It's been a busy time. Eric and I were talking before we came on the air. It's good to see people out and about doing things again and attending conferences and schools and different things that are coming up, and the Extension's getting right back in the swing of things, which is great, Eric. I think it's fantastic people get back out and about.
It is great, and I think that was probably one of the topics we did talk about the last time I was here, that we were just starting to have some programs, and turnout was kind of low. Well, that's changed. This year people have been turning out for programs. We've been super busy. It's good to see people's faces, and it gives us a good initiative to keep that programming coming.
And one of the neat things that we continue to see is the youth that are getting involved. And of course, we know we have the 4-H FFA Livestock Auction. It's going to be coming up in July. And people say, what are you talking about it for now? Because weigh-ins have already happened. You've been busy with that. And I know one of the things you want to talk about is just how well these things happen here in Dent County. But it takes a lot of people to make them happen. It's a lot of volunteer work to put it all together. And without that, this would be a very large task to try and get done.
Yes, just this last weekend we weighed in over 60. Well, we weighed in over 80 hogs for 60 participants. So we're already getting ready for the livestock show. The hogs have just been weighed in. Last month we weighed in the steers. Mm-hmm. We have the goat and lamb weigh-in coming up. And every time we have these events and all these volunteers show up, because handling that many hogs, of course, we were able to do it at the sale barn with the hogs, and we did it at Cunningham Livestock for the steers this year.
Right.
But to have the volunteers show up, a lot of hands make light work. And some of these people have been volunteering for so many years that they've really got a system. We can really get that task done. It's a good experience for the kids. They're proud. They're showing up with their animals. Of course, the expo will be on the week of July 11th. So there's several steps that start early in the year to get everything in place and get things going in July.
Absolutely. And the quality assurance, you said, because the kids who are showing for the first time have to take this.
Yes.
It's mandatory. It's not an optional thing. And Dent County, he said 40, and if you had Crawford County, you had about 80.
Yeah, we had over 40 kids in Dent County and about 80 in Crawford County. So, the kids are ready to go this year. So that's great. In fact, numbers wise, it looks like our expo is back to where it had been in terms of participants and exhibitors. It didn't dip much during COVID, but it did dip. I mean, COVID changed everything. But this year, things are really rolling along.
Yeah, it really affected the 4-H exhibition more than anything,
right?
Because the kids couldn't put together the things that they've done. And Eric, I always find that amazing what these young people can do and then display out there, because it just, to me, some of the creativity, where did they ever come up with that idea? How did they ever put that together? It's amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, all the projects that are exhibited besides the livestock, some fantastic stuff. And that speaks to, the kids' creativity, but it also speaks to the project leaders and, all the opportunities. There's, other than the livestock, there's bees, there's woodworking, there's metalworking, there's photography, there's loads of activities that these kids can get involved in through 4-H.
And a big thank you to the parents to make it happen, because they have to be as involved as their children are, aren't they?
Yeah, they do. And you learn that really quickly as a parent. I'm sure all those parents out there listening know exactly
probably
what we're talking about.
Head, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, parents are, of course, a big part of it. But, I mean, they're doing it for the right reason.
Right. But the 4-H program in Dent County is strong. This is a very, very solid area for 4-H.
Yeah, and I've probably said this before. It's a very kind of traditional 4-H county. Mm-hmm. Which there's fewer and fewer traditional 4-H counties just because of those two reasons, the ability of people in the community to volunteer, or the willingness to volunteer, and then the commitment of the parents. But in Dent County, we've got a good base of volunteers, we've got great commitment of the parents, and so we're able to maintain sort of that traditional approach to 4-H, which is where the real benefits are, I think.
I think Dent County is one of the few counties that really takes heart in making sure that their youngsters are well informed. You have your beef days, different things. Yep. They get the kids out there, get them exposed to it, show them what real life is all about a little bit, and in a fun way that they can enjoy. But it does give a lot of these kids maybe their first glimpse of what agriculture is all about.
Yeah, there's beef days, but at WRDAC we also have the FFA day out at WRDAC, and a huge number of kids go through there. And I was out in the community just 2 weeks ago when someone mentioned having been through that for 4 years, and when they were in high school, and people remember things like that when they get involved in that as children and get exposed to things. But sometimes sticks with them for life. So it's great that we can provide that in Dent County.
It's always interesting to hear how kids respond to this, and I love the FFA day when we have here when they come in and Bob Parsons interviews them, and you always hear about beef days, or you hear about we heard about FFA day this year out at WRDAC. That last year they didn't have it.
Right, they canceled it.
And so they missed it the previous year. They were able to go this year, and that's great. I think those exposures to that type of first off, getting people back together again, as you and I were talking about some of the different things that are going on through Extension that are drawing these big crowds again, is you actually learn a lot from conferences, you learn a lot from schools and different get-togethers, but you learn a lot from the people who are attending. They offer their insights, you make new friends, you network, and you might have a good idea, and then somebody else comes up with an idea, so I never thought about that. That might work on my farm.
Right, and having that ability to shake people's hand and see neighbors, see colleagues, learn things from other people that are attending. Just sometimes the small talk is really what makes the sort of light bulbs go on at those events. Ideas and new experience and networking. So I think there's a lot of value to be able to get people together and share in an event together, because then it just adds more of an opportunity to learn. And I'm lucky we're able to do it again. I mean, I feel lucky that we're able to get back to it this year.
Very good. We've got a couple of things coming up we need to talk a little bit about.
We do have several things coming up, and there's other things on our radar that aren't necessarily coming up, but probably we should talk about. First of all, a few events at Extension. There is a freezer meal workshop, I guess. It's a introduction to food preparation and planning meals. And this class is almost full, but there is a chance to register still. You can call the Extension office at 573-729-3196. If you're interested and you've heard about it but haven't signed up, you should sign up quickly, because there's just a couple of openings left.
Yeah, that's a neat class, because everybody tends to, we waste so much food, Eric.
Yeah.
And this will teach you that you limit your portions, freeze it, bring out what you need, and save money.
Yeah. Well, and you're planning. It requires some planning. Improves, wellness, because you're eating healthier rather than just grabbing something quick. So that's definitely a worthwhile class.
Which we know when we grab something quick, it's not probably the most nutritional.
Right. But there's also a canning workshop, food preservation workshop. It's going to be offered April 30th and May 21st. There's still opportunities to register with that.
Yeah, that was really popular last time it was offered.
Well, and a lot of people are starting to think about their gardens already. I mean, it's early yet, but it's time to start thinking about gardening. And when you start thinking about gardening, you always start thinking about food preparation and canning. So
Easter leaves are coming up. It's not long, right?
But it's a great time to think about that workshop as well. The Salem Community Garden has a list of events, almost weekly events coming up. You can contact the Extension office for information about that.
Right.
But it's time for that community garden to get going again as well.
Remember, the plots there are free. You get one plot for free. You can sign up. There are some plots available. You call 729-3196, and they can help you with that. Do they have Master Gardener they're going to have come in again like they have in the past, Eric?
Yep. The Master Gardeners are involved.
Yeah, they do a great job.
They actually do all the organizing and heavy lifting on that. And it's not just a garden spot because they have these educational workshops.
Sure.
And so if you're set up down there, you're participating in the community garden. You also have these other events that you can join
Right.
to learn a little
Haven't seen
something
your
along
schedule
the way.
yet, but last year they had a number of great events on Thursday nights
Uh-huh.
that were well attended, and so hopefully people can get a chance to check those out. And I know they had them a little bit more, not the same night every night, because some people obviously can't do that. But they do have a third Saturday workshop, and again they have where you can ask a master gardener some questions. And do so. These people are out there. They want to help you. And you don't have to have a plot to go out there and ask them a question or two. But if you want to do a little work day at the garden and clean up the garden and help some other people out there at the same time, come on out. They'd love to have you.
Yep.
So if you have any questions, again, just call the 729-3196, speak with Sarah. You can also call Charlie Grimm, 368-9902, and Charlie can help you out as well.
One final thing, well, not a final thing, but
Uh-huh.
one other event we have planned or we are planning. We want to hold a feeder calf and cow grading workshop. And we're putting this together with Salem Livestock Auction. And we'll have a USDA grader sort of explaining how the grades of cattle are represented in different individual animals, how that affects how those animals sell. This is planned for April 25th if we can put it together. Scheduling things is hard sometimes when you're putting a lot of working pieces together. But Renee at the sale barn, I'm talking to USDA grader Lonnie Peets, and we would like to have this event on the evening of April 25th. So keep your eyes open. We'll start promoting this here hopefully next week. It'll be a chance to get an explanation of the values of different feeder calves, different cull cows, how those values are determined in terms of their grades. There will be chances to ask some questions, some discussions. We'll run some cattle through the ring. And anyone that produces feeder calves and sells cull cows, you know, sometimes you get paid once a year. So you need to make sure that you know what you're setting yourself up for success. You want to make sure you're marketing those cattle right. And hopefully this workshop can help answer some questions for folks.
You know, and a lot of people, Eric, don't realize that the extension has people like yourself that can answer questions. If you are wanting to get in the livestock business and you're not quite sure, is my ground right? Is this right? Before you go and make that major investment in
Yep.
fertilizer
Yep.
or into livestock or things, hey, give the extension a call, 729-3196. Eric can come out, talk to you, kind of give you an idea what's all involved, because I always kind of say the hidden costs are the ones that bite you, because you
Right.
think, well, that cow's going to cost me $500 and that's going to cost me this. I can figure all that out. Well, you didn't figure this veterinarian costs, everything else.
Right.
Because that's what you guys do. That's why
Well,
you guys are here.
Well, that's what we do, and if we can't answer those questions, we have a front seat for a whole list of specialists that can answer that question. Right now, the hot topic is, should we keep feeding hay or can we turn the cattle out yet? There is, grass is starting to turn green, and people want to get those cows out grazing, but at the same time, you don't want to hurt your grass. So, there's a lot of decisions to be made, month by month. Right now, it's turnout time. Maybe hay's running short. How can you best get those cows out grazing without setting your grass back? That's been a big topic. Another big topic, or I guess it's an example of a topic. I spent a lot of time just last week with a guy that's wanting to get out of cow-calf and just start running stockers. Well, how do you make that transition from, a year-round cow herd to just having stockers on a seasonal basis?
Right.
Their lifestyle has changed a little bit. They're not able to feed hay all winter and break ice all winter. Well, maybe they can shift to stockers and just have cattle on a seasonal basis.
True.
And basically, what decisions need to be made? Where can you get information? I'm happy to help anyone sort of think through processes like that and answer some of those questions, because there's a lot of different options.
Right. There's a recent article that I was reading that about preparing. The more and more young people are coming into farming. They want to build their garden. They want to raise their own livestock and things of that nature, but they have no experience in it. They're moving in the area. They're buying these farms sight unseen. They're coming in California, maybe from up east, trying to get away from the big cities. And because of the cost of different things, it's just so high in those areas, they want to self-produce. Well, that's a wonderful thing. But the article I was reading that a lot of these people really don't know how to fertilize. They're putting fertilizer in a garden that will run into their livestock pond.
Right.
Not a good idea.
Right.
And, so there's a strategy about putting a farm together, isn't there, Eric?
Yeah, there is, and we get a lot of those calls. People, finally get an opportunity to get their hands on some property and move out, and they want to produce as much of their food as they can and raise some livestock. And then they show up and they're like, well, where do you get started? And there are some things that they need to avoid.
Sure.
And a lot of things that some people that have been involved with it most of their life take for granted that they basically need to just learn. But also, I think this is also a sort of a testament to something we were talking about a little bit earlier. You can only learn so much from YouTube. And a lot of those people, when they start, making a move like that and starting a farm, they've probably spent quite a bit of time on YouTube thinking about it, making some plans. And sometimes when you show up and it's not like it was on YouTube,
Yeah.
you need to call someone. And so we get a lot of calls with people that have just moved in the area. Some of them are frustrated, some of them aren't frustrated, but there's a lot that can be learned. And Extension is a great place to get various pieces of information, whether it's about gardening or whether it's about livestock or fertilization. We're happy to help with anything.
One of the things, and we kind of talked about this before we came on the air too, is when you are talking to other ranchers and farmers and different things of that nature, you learn from their experience. And that's one of the things when somebody is new in an area, whether it be livestock or gardening, and they don't have that experience, you say, watch something on YouTube, they'll get it off something else, somebody streamed this, or somebody on Facebook said, oh, you can do it this way. I'll tell you, they might be right, but it may not be right for your soil, and
Right.
it may not be right for your farm. And the thing you really need to do is get in touch with somebody who has that experience, and they can say, okay, yeah, that would work if you had a high lime content, but you don't,
Right.
and you don't want to do that because it won't grow. And that's something that they're not going to be aware of. They need soil testing. If they do have hay, they need to test their hay for nutritional quality. Eric, there's a lot more to it than just
Right.
going and flipping on the computer and seeing downloading the YouTube video and saying, well, I can do that.
Do you know that you've just hit on something that's important, and we'll end up sitting here all day if we start talking. But so I just want to mention a couple more things before I don't get a chance. Soil testing is going to be really important this year. Fertilizer is high, and you can be very specific about what fertilizer you use. The fertilizer plants they can mix it how you need it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to follow the same recipe that you've always followed. What you need to do is get that test and only apply what's needed. You'll save a little bit of money, and you'll see just as good results.
Or better.
Or better.
Yeah.
Or better. So this is a great year to be very deliberate about what you do in terms of fertilizer, just because fertilizer is expensive. We had a forage and beef conference in Vienna, which a great turnout. Dent County was well represented, and we had one of the specialists talking about fertilizer issues. And especially on pasture, you only see a response when your nutrient levels get too low to a certain point.
Sure.
So you can spend a fortune on fertilizer and not even see a response, and that's unfortunate. So right now, when we need to be careful with those fertilizer dollars, it's a great year to get soil test and know exactly what you're putting on. One other thing I want to mention is this highly pathogenic avian bird flu that's going around, this avian flu.
Right.
There's always sort of a low pathogen bird flu that goes around, and you'll see sick birds. In our part of the state, there's not a lot of commercial poultry, but we're still told to be aware that this avian flu is out there. It's really devastated some counties. So, and they think it's being spread mostly by waterfowl. We don't see a lot of
Wow.
waterfowl. I mean, we're not in a big duck flyway or anything, but we do see geese and we do see some wild waterfowl. If you have, if you have waterfowl that you're raising, if you've got ducks and geese at home, it's a good time not to, go to that swap meet and whatnot. And some counties are actually restricting the sale of waterfowl, domestic waterfowl, just for that reason. If you do bring a new one home, make sure you quarantine it from your other waterfowl. And then we just keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't end up in chickens and everything as well.
Right.
Because those types of pathogens can spread like wildfire. And it's, the state has to do the best it can to keep it from becoming too widespread.
And then once it does, those animals have to be destroyed.
They have to be destroyed.
Yeah. And so it's that can be a huge loss to a crop if somebody's got a chicken farm, and
right.
you can be devastated for years.
And one of the reasons they handle it that way is because on the bigger picture, 30,000 feet up there, we've got to protect our export markets. We've got to protect our, if things get too widespread. Well, we saw it with mad cow disease when we lost all our export markets for beef. And the same can happen in the poultry industry. The same can happen in the pork industry. And this is an issue with the wild hogs. I mean, this isn't a big pork producing area either, but in the big picture, if we get, disease problems in our pork industry because of wild hogs, we just shot our export deals in the foot. So we do have to be aware that those are issues and listen to the recommendations and try to follow the recommendations, because hopefully that'll keep everything in hand.
Yeah, and while you're bringing up hogs, I want to remind everybody Extension does have a person now on staff who can help you if you have a feral hog problem, and I know that the Conservation Department has felt a little bit better, that they felt like they got a little bit better hand on this, but they have to stay on top of it. There's just no other way.
Has Kevin been in here yet?
Yes.
He is so knowledgeable. He spends a lot of time staying on top of the topics. He knows that game. I was speaking to him yesterday and learned a lot. But I think they're doing a great job, and he's helping make sure that they're making the connections and staying after it.
So if you come across, I know, Eric, if you see somebody that has a feral hog problem, I'm sure you're, tell them to get a hold of Kevin, let them take a look at it. If you don't know if you had a feral hog come through, or 2 or 3, usually they come through as a bunch and do a lot of damage. Well, if you have something and your ground's all stirred up, and you'll know the damage. It's pretty obvious.
It's pretty obvious.
Get in touch with Kevin. Call 729-3196 and let them know. And then he can come down there, assess the situation, and then start making plans to eradicate those hogs. And that's the key and the goal right now. Not to control them, just to eradicate them, try and get rid of these.
Right.
And this pest, and it's a problem. And it's been not just a problem in Missouri. I think a lot of people say, well, it's just in one area. No, it's in Arkansas, and they don't want it in northern Missouri at all.
Right.
So it's one of those things that we're trying to get it controlled now in the southern part of the state and keep it there, if at all possible. So.
And they're making headway apparently. So that's a good thing.
From the reports we got, sounds like they're coming. They're doing better than break even, and that's it was, for a while it felt like a losing cause, because they were getting just some, and then they'd find another whole load of them, find it here and here, and they seem to travel in packs and they're large packs, and so
sounders, they call them sounders.
Sounders, thank you.
And they and the technology they're using on them, they're using heat-seeking drones that can follow and pick them out in the brush from their body heat. Mm-hmm. So he said if they put a drone up at night, they can locate them and count them, and they can tell the difference between a cow and a hog, and and a deer and a hog, and they're using technologies that really help them in their job, and so they've been pretty effective in finding them and getting rid of them.
And they do a lot of their damage at night, and you don't even know they're out there. You look out your field great one day, and the next day it is just totaled.
And in some, Dent counties,
we've been pretty good.
It hasn't been bad, but in some of our neighboring counties, they can really tear up a hayfield, and some of the counties are actually getting discs and harrows to make available to people just to patch up all the damage that the hogs do.
Right.
And luckily it hasn't been that bad around here, but knock on wood, we've got to stay after them or there will be.
And we just hope Kevin keeps doing a great job that he is, and the Department of Conservation, and they're working with a number of other partners and trying to eradicate this problem. So,
Yeah.
But I want to touch base since you kind of brought up hogs. We just want to remind everybody that is available through the extension now, and it just got started about 5 months ago, right? I think
Yep.
they finally got that going. We got hired Kevin back in October, I believe.
Yeah, and he hit the ground running. Yeah,
He was kind of already familiar
he
with
was
it.
familiar. That was a big help. Yeah,
a
for
lot
sure.
of big help. Eric, thank you for coming
Yep.
in, spending some time with us. Eric Meusch from the our extension right here in Salem. He's your agriculture guy. You need something agriculture, he's the guy to get in touch with. You can call 729-3196. Leave a message there. They can get it to Eric, or you can call him directly. You got your number with you?
Sure, you can call me at 573-201-6404.